is a quote from Mr. Governor. Those states will become the agribusiness hub in Nigeria, ensuring food sufficiency for production and industrial materials. The strategy will be to grow local production and consumption. That is Governor Obaseki's statement. This is very inspiring. By way of introduction, next slide. Agribusiness plays a large part in Edo State's economy, directly providing more than 50% of jobs and contributing more than 5% to the GDP. So our policy thrust here as a government is to use this sector to create jobs, as well as ensure food security. There are enormous potential in Edo State in terms of primary agriculture, which when compared to other off-farm agribusiness. Cultivable land in Edo is 1,406,916 hectares. Now, from 2016 to 2020, the average growth of value added agriculture has been growing at 7.5% annually. This data is from the Edo ADP Water and Dry Season Field Survey that was conducted in 2020. So all of these sectors showed positive growth from this period, with largest increases recorded in cassava, rice, maize, cocoa, oil palm, plantain, catfish, poultry, and pig production. So it shows how important agric is to providing income for the rural people. Next slide, please. Now, let me take you through the status of agriculture in Edo. For the crop subsector, food crops production accounts for 60% of our agricultural land in Edo State, and it's integral to the livelihood of our small-scale farmers. The most important food crops that we have, as we know, are cassava, yam, rice, maize, plantain, and these are generally rain-fed. And the Edo State climate supports a fantastic array of tree crops as well, and fruit, vegetables. So oil palm is major to us, that we know, cacao, rubber, cashew, and a wide range of vegetables. And there are other emerging crops that we have now, like Ivinja species, which we call ogbolo. Banana is also emerging seriously. Watermelon, we are playing a lot in watermelon as well. Pawpaw and pineapple, these are also becoming cash crops in Edo. Now, the tree crop sector, critical agriculture sector, plays a critical role in the national economy. You know that cacao and oil palm, even rubber, even now cashew as well, play a critical role in our national economy through exports. Now, commercial production supports this export activity, and could also support the domestic processing sector. The domestic processing sector needs to be upgraded here because most of our export crops are exported raw. We need to process. Now, for tree crops and agriculture subsector in the Edo State, it's a key income and employment generator in rural economy, and also a significant contributor to Nigeria's exports. Exports have been increasing at an average of 2% annually, and like we know, our state has the edaphic and climatic source that we have supports this array of cash crops. Next slide, please. Now, for the livestock subsector, domestic poultry production satisfies just 32.5% of demand. While pork, lamb, goat meat supplies 29.2% of demand. You can see that there's a very, very wide gap. Now, commercial livestock production is significant in Edo State and has potential to grow. The poultry subsector is very advanced and meets 55% domestic demand for eggs. So there's still a wide gap that we need to fill. In general, prices for poultry are improving, but we use additional inputs, especially at the processing end. One thing that we don't have in Edo now are processors. So you find that birds are usually sold live out of those states to other states that have these processing facilities. So we need to establish processing outfits that will take this large poultry production that is currently going on in our states. Now, for the fishery subsector, our resource base is quite huge. Water bodies, most of the water bodies have substantial fishery resources and offers opportunity for aquaculture development, both in marine and fresh waters. Aquaculture in those states is an emerging industry and is currently dominated by African catfish, Garipinos, Claros Garipinos, and very limited number of tilapia. So you find most of the fish that we have in the aquaculture, and most of the farms mainly grow catfish, and nobody is doing tilapia, probably because it's highly prolific, and because if you put a few in the pond, before you know, they reproduce and the whole pond is feed. Their weight size do not grow as much as the catfish, and they're not also as hardy as catfish. But this is an industry that we need to, this is an area that we need to look at and improve so that we can also get a good share of the market demand. So the industry is represented by small-scale farmers producing fish for household consumption and for domestic markets. The state has substantial aquaculture potential where commercial activities in the industry can contribute to poverty reduction and enhance food security. The state has over 80% hectares of swampland that can be deployed for use in the aquaculture sector. And the water table that supports fish farming in over 60% of the state. Currently, the production level is estimated as less than 250,000 metric tons per annum. And we just have about 6,000 fishing families under the artisanal fishery subsector. So a lot of infrastructure need is required in this area. Next slide, please. Now, what are the initiatives of Edo State government? Haven't realized these things I just mentioned. Agriculture and allied industries has always been considered by those state governments as an important sector for diversification and to build on an economy that can generate inclusive growth and create jobs. Now, realizing that jobs opportunities cannot materialize without better coordination of agriculture and agribusiness value chains to reduce fragmentation and establish stronger linkage between upstream primary production and downstream value addition segments, the government of Obaseki administration launched its flagship agricultural initiatives. And this include one, the Edo Agripreneur Program. The objective is to increase investment in the agricultural sector to create viable economic opportunities for youth and upscale production levels of farmers in the states. Another program is called the Edo State Oil Palm Program, called ESOP. This program is geared towards removal of critical risk in the oil palm sector through solving the biggest hindrances to plantation development by making land available and also encouraging sustainable production and ensuring global competitiveness. Another program that we have had is the Independent Farmers Initiative. This was launched last year to mitigate against the adverse effects of COVID-19 crisis and lay the ground for robust recovery. Now, we're also attracting investment in the upstream sector, which is in terms of value addition, so that we can facilitate domestic offtake and increase production. So I just take you step by step now as to what we have achieved in these various programs that I've just mentioned. Next slide. Now, for the Edo Agripreneur Program, I won't bother you with much of the strategy, but what is done here is that land in clusters are sourced, and farmers are profiled and allocated land, 2 hectares, 5 hectares, depending on the enterprise. And the focal crops here, of focal commodities here, are one, rice, cassava, maize, soybean. In livestock, we're also into poultry production, and for fisheries, we're into catfish production. Now, like I said before, land is sourced in a cluster, and farmers are profiled and allocated land in these locations. The inputs in terms of seeds, agrochemicals, fertilizer, and extension service support is provided, including offtake arrangement is also provided. So at the end of the day, it's a full, it's an entire package, so that the farmer is assisted to produce. Even provide, we also provide farm machinery, plowing, harrowing services, including harvesting. We provide combined harvesters to harvest. Now, obstacles are also made ready. Once we farmers produce, the obstacle comes, pick them up, pay, and the profits is immediately given back to the farmer after at the end of the cycle. So I'll take you through the next slide where you have the project that was executed in the last 3 years now. And we have supported 2,272 farmers in this program. And you can see for the first project, there is a Akbona program, 2019 West Season Rice Production. That was in Aganebode. We had 210 hectares with 50 farmers. And the profit margin there was 330,000 naira that the farmers made in that project. The next, they are all stated there on the table. I do not have to necessarily have to take you through all the tables, all the items on the table. Let me take you to another one. If you go to the next slide, you find for 2020, we supported 500 hectares of rice in Aganebode, Agbede, Waraka, and Lushi. And the number of farmers that we had was total 169 farmers altogether. We created 6,000 jobs. And the profit margin was this year was phenomenal because the first year was a learning phase. Second year, the profit margin was 100,000 naira per farmer. And this has really spurred rice production in our state. Total number of jobs that we have created using this platform has been over 54,000 jobs. If you aggregate the job columns that I have there, you find that we have created over 4,000 jobs using this platform in Edo State. We're also into catfish production. For catfish production, what we do is that we provide all the infrastructure. Tarpaulin tanks are provided, fish are provided, as the fingerlings are provided, feeds are provided, and including boreholes and every necessary assets that's required to grow fish. And youths are located 2 tarpaulin tanks that can take over 4,000 fish, and they are given the resources to grow. But what we have done, actually, we have not stocked up to that number per farmer, but even though the tank can take that number, what we have stocked has only been 1,000 fish per farmer because we think that it's a learning phase. We should learn from it and grow from there. You can see on H there, the profit margin was 250,000 naira for a 4-5 month cycle for fish production. And most of the beneficiaries here are youths, mainly Libyan returnees, and potential migrants. Because what we have done here, IOM has also adopted our model, and they are supporting 50 youths now using our model in Edo ADP to grow 40,000 catfish. And the model has also yielded even more than this. Farmers are making about 450,000 naira per cycle of production. Next slide. We have also established a farm mechanization hub, so that we are able to procure using this was done through a PPP approach. Provided farm tractors, provided implements, plow, harrows, and boom sprayers. Also provided combined harvesters, so that our farmers are able to access farm machinery services to enable them increase production. We also on this platform, we have also developed land, because one major constraint in Edo is availability of tractorable land. As from this, Mr. Governor has also duly approved that we develop land so that we can have more farmers in clusters. But when they are in clusters, they are easy to monitor. It is easy to provide extension service. It's easy to provide inputs, and you are sure that the benefits will come if they are in clusters. So already from this, Mr. Governor approved that we develop land in Igbomo and Warake about 800 hectares. Right now, we're developing land in Uzala, 150 hectares, Emera, same 150 hectares, Usen as well, Agbede, Ewonogbon, Udo in the Gweben area, 1,000 hectares. So this is the thing we are doing right now. So over 5,000 hectares of land are currently being developed in Edo, so that we can have more land in clusters to support our farmers. Now, another major thing we observed while we do this program was that farmers were unable to dry their grains, especially for maize and rice. So Mr. Governor decided that we procure mobile serene grain dryers, such that instead of relying on the sun, we could dry this produce for them easily. We procured 3, and they have been deployed to the central districts and are supporting farmers in drying operations. So we are reducing post-harvest losses using this equipment to support our farmers. Next slide. Now, the next program that I mentioned was the Edo State Oil Palm Program, which Mr. Governor also launched. And the plan is to use this platform to increase Edo State's share in the oil palm industry by 200,000 hectares. For now, we have identified 120,000 hectares, mainly in the oil palm belt of Edo State, which is Ovia Northeast, Ovia Southwest, Oriomo, Uhude, and we have allocated 45,000 already to investors who are listed here. You have Fanfort, 5,000 hectares in Sakomba Forest Reserve. You have Saro Africa, 10,000 hectares in Ronigbe Forest Reserve. You have AgriPalm, 10,000 hectares in Onwan South. You have Feyus, 5,000 hectares in Ora, Uleha, and Uzala Forest Reserve. You also have Saturn Farms, 5,000 hectares in the same location, and you have Dufil, 10,000 hectares in the same in Ronigbe. Now, CBA is supporting this project with the sum of 69 billion naira to support these investors to develop these estates. Like I said, the plan is to take Edo. We're already #1 in oil palm production, and the plan is to sustain this so that we remain there, develop more estates to create jobs, to create wealth for our people. And the sector, according to Mr. Governor, is being rejuvenated to ensure global competitiveness, diversify the state economy, and achieve economic prosperity. Now, once these are established, right now we are doing community engagement. We are meeting with the communities to enable access to the land, so these investors can begin estate development. As to speak, is going on, and it's going on very well. The communities are very receptive and appreciate efforts of government to develop this sector. Now, the next slide. The next initiative that we have is the Independent Farmers Initiative. This was launched last year during the peak of COVID-19 to support our farmers, so that what we provided to them for them were inputs, which were seeds, fertilizers, and crop protection products. Mr. Governor said, let us meet these farmers where they are. It's not just clustering them now. Let us meet them where they are and support them. So the target commodities here again were rice, maize, soybean, and cassava. And here for rice, the target was 1,620 hectares of feed. And maize the same. Soybean 540 hectares, cassava 1,620 hectares. Farmers were supposed to produce, we produce and we offtake as government. Government in this case was the anchor, who offtake and sell this produce to processors who are ready to offtake them from us. So far, these inputs have been distributed, and we have begun the process of taking. We have taken some rice and the soybean. Cassava is still in the field, still growing, and we still have soybean just growing as we speak at the moment. Now, the inputs that were distributed, you'll find in the next slide. These are the inputs that were distributed. For maize, we distributed 40,500 kilograms of maize seeds to farmers. For rice, over 180,000 seeds were given to farmers. For soybean, 27,000 kilograms. Now, for cassava cuttings, we gave out 97,200 bundles of cassava were given out to farmers. And the fertilizers and crop protection products that were required to grow these seeds and cuttings were provided to all the farmers. And this will boost our food production and ensure that our food system and strengthen the resilience of our food system in Edo State. Now, next slide. Recent agricultural development.
Sorry, Peter, to interrupt. You have 4 minutes.
Okay. Recent agricultural investment attracted in the Edo State are listed here. These are a few of them. We have Dufil right now developing 14,000 hectares of oil palm. This is not what we gave them under ISO. This is another estate they are developing. 14,000 hectares of oil palm estate being developed by Dufil. Dufil has also established a starch processing factory in our state. So uptake of cassava right now is high in Edo. Cassava now goes for between 40 to 50,000 naira per ton, as against 11,000 and 12,000 that used to be about 6 months ago. So farmers who are in this sector are very happy, and uptake is relatively easy for them. Saro also as well is also doing an ethanol processing factory in Edo, and it's also going to be using cassava as its raw materials. Fayus as well is also developing oil palm estates in Edo, and as we speak, they are developing 1,200. This is not the same with what was given to them under ESOP, and they are planted and they are creating jobs in that sector. For Lohi, we have a cattle ranch development project by Lohi, 100 hectares. The ranch is being built as we speak now, and I'm sure in the next couple of months, the ranch will be ready to receive animals. Agrotech and PEMO are rice processing factories that we have, and they are also doing well, creating jobs and taking rice that we're currently producing in Edo, and we don't have enough rice to even feed them. So we need to increase our rice production capacity. Next slide. Now, what are the opportunities that are available for agriculture for investors? For poultry, like I mentioned before, there's no hatchery in Edo. So we all go to Southwest, which is the most Ibadan most of the time, to buy day-old chicks. So this is an area investors should come in and look into and come in so that we can have day-old chicks produced within our state. Chicken processing is also a very wide area. We have very few low capacity processing hatcheries that we have in Edo. There's need for us to look at this area and invest. For ranching, yes, opportunities are abound. We are trying to right now even develop Ghana cattle ranch for investors. So cattle, sheep, and goat, these are areas people should invest in. Primary production and farm sponsorship. Primary production creates more jobs than off-farm activities. So we advise that people look at soybean. It's a major people think that Benue will produce more soybean than Edo. Edo can produce more soybean than Benue. We need to take this seriously and expand investment in this area. For rice, cassava, maize, oil palm, cacao, cashew, rubber is another area that we should look at. But Ivinja, which is Ogbolo, is something we have very few practitioners in Edo that we should invest in because the market is very huge as we speak. Now, for farm mechanization and land development, like I said before, we have very few lands that we have in clusters that are tractorable. We need to develop more land so we can have farmers can have more access to tractorable land. This is an area we should look at. For box grain silos, we don't have it at all as we speak now. Once we have Amoribon, we're trying to reactivate them. But it will be good for investors to look at this area and invest so that as we increase production, we can have places where we can store and investors can also leverage on this to invest. For feed milling, yes, same thing. Feed mill, we have our feed mill. We used to have the BFFM, benefit and flour mill. It's not running as at the moment. Even though Mr. Governor is trying to see that the investor quickly get that project running, but it's an area we can look at as our poultry sector, pig sector, and even catfish sector are developing in high speed. So this is my presentation. Let me thank you for listening. I hope I wasn't too fast, but I'm sure you're going to get one or two things from this presentation. Thank you.